Hello and welcome along to another episode of this special TwinSpires series where we provide you with the inside track on how to become a more effective horse player. I'm Andrew Brown and we have assembled an all-star panel including James Scully, Kevin Kilroy and Darin Zoccali for today's topic, which is multi-race ticket construction and bankroll management. If you want to make a big score on the ponies, this is the episode for you. We're going to cover a lot of interesting stuff. Our three panelists are experts and super passionate about this subject. DZ, let me kick it to you first, just to give us a brief outline of exactly what we are talking about when we refer to multi-race wagers.
Yeah, multi-race wagers, meaning pick threes, pick fours, pick fives, pick sixes. The toughest of the tough when it comes to handicapping, and the certainly the wagers that give you the most bang for your buck, that you have the shot to take that big home run swing at. But yeah, looking to make those big scores, often guaranteed pools, the pools with the carryovers that cover a series of consecutive races in a row. Pick threes, pick fours, pick fives, etc.
And Kevin, I was going to ask you, why is the issue of bankroll management and multi-ticket construction so intertwined?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key in terms of thinking about putting your tickets together is you want to do it efficiently, right? If you are spreading too deep and just getting defensive and building too big of a ticket and you come in, day in, day out, week in, week out, you're just going to drain your bankroll. And they're hard bets to hit. And so you got to acknowledge that high variance, high risk. If you can have a effective bankroll management system, then you're going to be able to last some of those long winters when you don't have one come in and shoot for those big scores, which is what we really want in a multi-race wager.
Yeah, they're definitely risk reward. James, why is it important to have a strategy when constructing multi-race tickets?
Well, I think it's important because, like Kevin referenced, I mean, there's a cost effectiveness involved in it. And you also have to be, I mean, for me, when I'm playing these things, I want to maximize my positions. So you need to have a strategy where you're identifying horses with the highest probability of winning in a sequence, and you need to leverage those positions. Brownie.
Yeah, well, let's stay with you, James, because I know you did actually just record a much shorter video recently for TwinSpires in the Training to Win series that they have, also that you can find on the TwinSpires Edge. And you were highlighting there one of your main rules, which was to leverage an opinion. Can you sort of go through your main rules when you are constructing a multi-race ticket?
Yeah, I mean, I look at constructing a multi-race ticket where every ticket has a starting point, and it's not the first leg by default. I'm looking at the sequence. I'm identifying horses with the highest probability of winning in my estimation, maybe incorporating some fair value, into that as well, but it's still the highest probability of winning. And then I'm building multi-race tickets around those opinions. So what I try to do is I try to play, if I have more than one opinion, I try to play multiple tickets and leverage those. And that allows me to, get coverage in races where I don't have as strong as an opinion of Brownie.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess instead of using 4 horses and having it for 50 cents, you could have a stronger opinion and maybe use one horse for $2 and single it. Is that kind of what you're saying? And you could have those sort of 2 tickets going at the same time?
Exactly. And basically on both of those tickets, you can use, if you have 2 horses you like the best, they're in separate races, you can single them each one on a separate ticket and have backups in that other race as well. And that by playing multiple tickets, you save on the cost. Instead of going, 5 by 5 by 5, you save on the cost of these tickets, and it enables you to potentially hit the ticket multiple times, which is what everybody's trying to do if they're playing multiple tickets, is be right more than once.
For sure. DZ, you have a real life example of where you successfully and rather fruitfully, I hear, took a stand at Horse Show Indy a couple of years back. I'm sure you won't mind reminiscing about that ticket and potentially teaching us a thing or two that we could learn from your construction of that ticket.
No, that was a good day. Yeah. Well, it goes to show you when it comes down to picking what sequence you want to play, a sequence at Horseshoe Indianapolis could be more appealing to me than a Breeders' Cup sequence, just because that's where I feel I have a strong opinion. That particular day, there was a 14-1 shot in a turf sprint that I liked quite a bit in the first leg. There was a horse who was 10 or 12-1 in the morning line that I liked quite a bit later on in the sequence. And I was able to build a couple of tickets around them, but one of them where I singled both of those horses and then kind of spread out from there. And on my main ticket, I was fortunate enough that both those horses won. One of them paid about $30, the other paid $20. And in one of the other legs where I was either 6 or 7 deep, I had a horse come in that was like 26-1. So when they put up the will pays for the last leg, I believe the pool had somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 some odd thousand, and it was paying 54,000 to 4 horses. It was the 4 that I had covered. And thankfully we got one of those 4 home, and we were able to scoop the pool, which was pretty cool. But it goes back to kind of what James was talking about, where you build the ticket around your strong opinion. You don't have wasteful spending. You don't look at the sequence and say, oh man, I don't really like the favorite in this race, but if he beats me, I'm going to feel badly about it. You have to kind of take all those emotions out of it and really combine the 2 most important things, which is combine your handicapping, trusting your strong opinion with proper management in terms of putting your tickets together and avoiding the temptation of doubling and tripling the cost of your ticket just because you want to throw a horse in because you're afraid, oh, the betting public is going to like him, or the morning line favorite, he's made the favorite in the morning line, so somebody's going to like him. Even though I don't like him, I'm going to throw him in just in case. I think that's the worst thing that you can do when it comes to ticket construction. I know there are people who disagree with me, but I think maximizing on your strongest opinions is how you're going to make serious money in this game, and avoiding the temptation of wasteful spending and just tossing horses in out of fear of losing to one of those favorites.
Yeah, guys, I mean, I'm agreeing with everything that you all are saying, and I think one other way to kind of think about what a strong opinion is not just that you feel that that horse has a high probability of winning, but also you want to think about what are other people thinking about that horse. If you have a horse that you like and you know that other people are not going to be using it, so the market will be, creating an overlay in that situation, that can be a strong opinion for how I build my tickets. If I know that this smaller barn with not much success, maybe a low percentage trainer, probably not going to get covered as much, and I can get separation from other tickets. So maybe I don't think that horse wins 8 or 10% of the time, but I think I might get much more value than what I'm seeing in there in the multi-race wagers. So that strong opinion is not just for me when I really know that horse is going to win, but also if I think other bettors might sleep on that horse, therefore causing me an opportunity like Darin had, sweeping that pool at Horseshoe.
Yeah, and Brownie, just to kind of draw a line from what Kevin said to another point that falls into this topic, being able to zag when other people zig is an important part of ticket construction. You get to a turf race that's got a 7-2 morning line favorite and looks wide open on paper. Majority of the people look at that as a spread race. They don't have a strong opinion. So what ends up happening is a 14-1 shot wins and you feel great about it. You got him on your ticket. The problem is he doesn't carry the same value in that field because people are spreading, and a lot more people may have that horse included than others. So if you can really pare down in a race like that where you're only using 1 or 2 horses, it comes to your advantage, because if you are able to then get a price that offers more value than what the odds board tells you in a race where other people are pared down, that's really how you open up opportunities in racing to connect on a big ticket. It's not easy to do, and I will absolutely admit that I'm going to hit less tickets than the guy that's going 4 deep by 5 deep by 3 deep by 4 deep. The thing is, though, I'm not putting together $400 tickets. I don't need to hit those things over and over and over again to make a profit. The race at Horseshoe Indianapolis covered my bets in racing for like the next 2.5 years. I only need to hit one of those. Other people that are betting all these different combinations and spreading when everybody else spreads, they need to constantly hit these tickets. So my win rate is less. My ROI, though, is much higher.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know too that obviously it's obvious to us, but not to everybody, that you're not betting against the house with these tickets. You are actually betting against your fellow horse players, and just highlighting what DZ is saying there, that you're looking for opportunities to take advantage or exploit your fellow horse players in many ways in order to get that big win and cash that big ticket on these sequences. And Kevin, I just want to circle back to something that you were saying just before, and it's almost along the lines of building equity into a ticket, something that I know that you're very passionate about. And why is that important? It might be sort of following up a little bit on what DZ was saying that, but why is it important to be able to build equity into your ticket in terms of long-term success and hitting those big wins?
Yeah, I mean, that's a key concept, right? Is we get into these pools because we want to get better odds than we can get in other pools, right? So if we build tickets where we have logicals and favorites used in every leg, we have a Chad Brown, Linda Rice, Brad Cox, and Irad Ortiz, and Bill Mott. Those are sort of like connections to win. Then we're looking at a $400 payout, right? And if you put a $400 ticket together, hey, that's not a great scenario. So you want to make sure that if you are getting involved in these, you've got to have some sort of separating opinion. And that's another way of talking about building equity into it, right? Where that zig and zag, like Darin's talking about, where everybody's over here and you're on the other side of the coin. And you position yourself that you maybe single a long shot, maybe you take a group of value horses, right? Like a bunch of closers, there's a hot pace, and you know those closers don't have the speed figures that everybody else has, but it really sets up for them. Use that group, right? And just use that as a spot where you know if you get through that leg, you take a stand, you don't get defensive and use the favorites or the logicals, then you will have a payoff that's worth that risk in this wager. So you really want to build equity into it, and you want to think about that and be conscious about it, and try to take advantage of what makes this the best gambling game in my eyes, that you can get that 5-figure, 6-figure score in these pools with not too big of a base bet.
Well, Kevin, we gave DZ an opportunity to show how he paid for his wedding and his timeshare in Disneyland. Have you got an example of a ticket that you've had a big win on that you want to share with us?
I had a good pick 4 that's similar to the way that James is talking about it. This meet at Saratoga. I've got to admit, I should have had the pick 6, and I messed up. So that's why I'm still kicking myself about. But I got back in. I knew I had strong opinions, specifically in the last 2 legs. I had a single that I felt great about. The second to last leg, and I had 2 horses that I knew were going to give me value in that last leg, and I thought they had a good chance of winning. So basically, those are my 2 singles in there, and then I took the other 2 legs and played the ticket multiple times using all the contenders that I thought, pressing up on the ones that I really thought would get it done, and they did end up getting it done. So I got all of my tickets coming back to me, paying it multiple times, but opening up a little bit more in those legs where I'm less confident to make sure that I do get that value when I really see it's possible there in that last leg and get skinny and taking that stand with that single. So the pick 4 can be a great spot to do multiple tickets and not get too costly and get it done. But luckily, I've been married a long time. I don't need to pay for another one of those weddings. But I've got a daughter, so I got to start saving up for that. So that this helped in that regards, that's for sure.
That's good. And second weddings can be expensive as well. James, I want to circle back a little bit with you and something I know you're very clear that if you don't take on favorites, you lose, right? And you say small players use them in all of their legs and they cover with favorites all the time, but smart players don't. Can you sort of elaborate a little bit about that, a little more on that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, by playing it safe, that's going to that's a strategy that, like Darin was talking about earlier, about just throwing in these horses. That's not a winning strategy. And we see it at these meets, favorites at best on typical racing fare, they win at like a 40% clip. We saw a stat in 2022 at Saratoga where they offered over nearly 100 pick 5s for the meet, and there was only one sequence where 5 of the winning favorites came in. I believe it was 88% of them had 3 or fewer favorites in them. So there is value, and you have to be willing to take a stand. You're not going to have any cost effectiveness by using like 5 favorites in a row in a sequence. Sometimes I'll mention, like, one thing I like to do is I'll work the pick 3 into it if sometimes I don't have the strongest opinion in the first leg of the pick 5. Last year at the Breeders' Cup, perfect example, I was out on Caravel in the turf sprint, but my strongest opinions came in races after that first leg in that opening pick 5, and I was able to capitalize on those 2 together in surrounding races. So you always have to be willing to take a stand. One of those horses I took a stand against against was Jackie's Warrior at a short price and the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I didn't like him, and I didn't use him on one ticket, and that increases the value that I'm going to be getting, like Kevin mentioned earlier. I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars to win hundreds of dollars. There is going to be a cost effectiveness to playing multi-race tickets.
We've touched on the subject of A's, B's, and C's too, and incorporating them into your ticket construction. James, is that something that you use with multi-ticket wagers?
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm not always going to be able to narrow to just a single per se in a pick 4 or pick 5 sequence, but I'm always going to like get it down, and I'm going to narrow it to if I have 2 A's in a race, I'm just going to try to use 2 horses, 3 at the most if it's like the Derby or something like that, and then I'm going to spread with B's and C's in other spots and try to take a stand by using A, B's, and C's. But absolutely, they're 100% effective, especially for pick 6 wagers. You know, that's initially where I first read about the whole ABC format. You've definitely got to identify your A's in a sequence and leverage tickets around those opinions, Andrew.
BZ, KK, how about you and your A, B, C's, and D's, perhaps?
Yeah, I'm also a proponent of it. I don't know if it's exactly like ABC like you see everybody else do, but I do use a variation of it. If I can't single a horse in a pick 5 sequence, especially, I'm probably not playing it. I'm not somebody that's going to end up putting 120 some odd dollars into a sequence. Because if I don't have that strong of an opinion, then I really don't have a strong opinion about the sequence. And furthermore, I'll even take it a step further, even beyond the multi-race ticket. People will say, well, like use Caravel, for example, like James brought up. What if I liked Caravel and I had Caravel in the pick 5, but I found myself getting beat in another leg, and now I have nothing to show for it, despite the fact that I had a 40-1 shot in the pick 5. Well, that's where some of what we're talking about comes in. If you eliminate the wasteful spending, where you're not throwing in the horses that you really don't like, and you avoid the fear of, oh my God, if I leave this horse out, he might beat me, you're saving money off of your bankroll by doing that. Then you have another $25. What can you do with it? I really like Caravel. You bet the $25 to win on Caravel. So even though the horse you didn't hit the pick 5, you now have $25 to win on a horse that paid $80. You're getting back almost $1,000, and you feel pretty good about that. So even though you get knocked out of the pick 5 somewhere else, at least you're still connecting on that strong opinion in another way. If you have wasteful spending in the exotics ticket, the multi-race exotics ticket, you don't have that extra money to make those win bets, and that's when you get really frustrated. So that's also a key component of this, being able to take out your strong opinion and still use money that's left over by not including those bad horses and being able to reinvest in those horses elsewhere.
And I'll mention one other thing along, you know, with the pick 4s and pick 5s, those are usually type of wagers. Even if I'm going to play a mandatory payout pick 6, I'm going to play for the smallest denomination possible. But if I have like a strong opinion and I want to minimize the risk in a sense, but try to increase the return, I can always play a pick 3 for a bigger denomination. Like I could play a pick 3 for $5 or $10, especially if I can narrow in 2 of the 3 sequences, and then perhaps, take a stand, with 10 runners in one of them and do it for more than the minimum weight amount possible. So I'll use a pick 3 wager. I love pick 3 wagers for that sense whereby, I might be able to play for more than the minimum amount and have some success trying to maximize my opinions with the pick 3.
Yeah, along those lines, I think the pick 6 is a spot where you should just be playing one ticket for the most part, right? Unless you're very skinny and you're trying to get a lot of favorites home. If you hit that pick 6, which is very hard to do, then one ticket should properly reward you, right? For most pools that you should dive into. Pick 5, maybe you want to be playing multiple tickets, but still, if you're playing it correctly and you're getting that separation of value, one ticket is going to be a nice score. Pick 4s, pick 3s, like James is saying, is where I do like to do multiple tickets. And thinking along those lines in terms of ABCs and how we work with this, and Caravel is such a great example. Maybe Caravel wasn't your strong opinion, but maybe it was a more logical force later in the sequence. But instead of the sort of defensive idea of spreading towards favorites, what about spreading in the other direction, right? If you've got a strong opinion over here and using those price horses that are really going to make that payday come through, and just sort of just tinkering with that mindset and that approach and the way that you're looking at it all. So like with ABCs, I sort of try to reverse it where I think those C horses are the most valuable, because those are the horses that most people will sit down with the sequence, handicap it, and be the first to toss, right? When those horses come in, if you can be on those horses, then you can really get that score that, that's what I'm after, right? Getting that big ticket, getting that home. So it depends on what your goals are and how you see the sequence. But if you are thinking about using some way of grading your opinions, like A, strongest opinion, B, second strongest, etc., I would say grade your opinion with how the market is going to react to that horse, right? In the market. All right, I really like this horse, and I don't think many people will like it as well. That's a very strong opinion you want to build a sequence around. So think about that, not only your thoughts about it handicapping wise, but how others will react to it.
And Brownie, I'll briefly touch on a little bit of a controversial topic because it's something that horse players see a lot. Television talent in horse racing putting out tickets. They want to win tickets. The companies that work for want to be able to say that the person that they put on the air often connects on winning tickets. That doesn't necessarily make it a good ticket. It's a ticket that's more likely to win, but it's not necessarily how a gambler would properly structure a pick 4, pick 5 ticket. James is a bettor. Kevin is a bettor. When they put out tickets, it's from a different standpoint than somebody who's on the air. Hey, so-and-so has a pick 4 ticket for you, and it's 4x3 by 3x4, because they want to be able to put those little check marks that say, got through this leg, got through this leg, got through this leg, and we won. So a word of caution for players, take some of those talent tickets that you see that go out in the air with a little bit of a grain of salt, because to be honest with you, it doesn't mean that they're playing that ticket at all, or it doesn't mean that they're playing that ticket exactly as it's shown from themselves as a player either.
Some terrific information there from all the boys. Gentlemen, as we begin to wrap things up here for this episode, I'd like each of you, if you can, to recap perhaps your do's and your don'ts when it comes to multi-race ticket construction. James, why don't we start with you?
All right. Well, my do is don't play it safe. We mentioned it earlier. I think smart bettors try to avoid overbet combinations in these multi-race ticket sequence. And by doing that, you have to you can't be afraid to leave out favorites that you believe are vulnerable in a sequence. So that's one thing I always say. Don't play it safe. Don't be afraid to take a stand against favorites you think are vulnerable.
Easy.
Yeah, I'll give my do's and don'ts in categories together. So do focus on sequences that you have strong opinions. Don't feel compelled to bet on a sequence just because it's a popular sequence in horse racing on a big day that boasts a big pool. If you don't have a strong opinion, you're not going to be able to put together a strong ticket. Do trust your opinion. If you're a consistent horse player, trust your handicapping abilities. Don't shy away from that opinion and include wasteful spending and betting from a place of fear, worrying about horses that you don't really like knocking you out of a sequence. If someone tells you you can't, anybody could win this race, but don't let the favorite beat you. Well, no. If anybody can win this race, then you don't really like the favorite. If the favorite beats you, that's okay. And last but not least, do bet outside of multi-race wagers so that you're able to reinvest in your strong opinions in other pools, simple pools, win pools, exacta pools, daily double pools. Don't waste your money adding other horses that you don't like elsewhere. That's going to limit your bankroll outside of the multi-race exotics.
Yeah, some important information there too. KK, what do you think? What have you got in your do's and don'ts list?
Yeah, do's and don'ts. Do locate vulnerable favorites. And I'll push that even further. Just locate favorites that everybody's going to be on. Jackie's Warrior, like you were talking about. Those horses that create those rare opportunities where you can just be on the other side of the coin. So locate vulnerable ones, but just also locate ones that everybody's going to single or use on their ticket. Build skinny tickets in pick 3s and pick 4s, and then press those opinions up. Still keeping your strongest opinion, your singles or those long shots that you need to come in there, and then the legs where you don't have as much confidence, vary it up in those. Do build equity into your ticket. Make sure that you do have some sort of separation in there, some sort of value, especially if you're going into bigger tickets, right? Where you're gonna be spending a lot of money on those. Make sure you know where you're gonna get paid, which opinion it is. Don't build a ticket that's gonna pay less than, I say, 50 to 1 and pick fives and pick sixes, right? If you are going to look at that sequence and get 5 to 1 or 10 to 1 on a $500 or $1,000 base bet, maybe you look at the daily double, maybe you look at the pick three, maybe you look at exacta or something like that, where you can really just hammer that home and hit that with more consistency with a lower variance bet there than that pick five or pick six, which is tough to do. Don't confuse frequency with magnitude. I think frequency is how often you hit, how often you can brag and say you got it right, versus magnitude is how big you hit when you get it done, right? We want to bet these multi-race wagers to get paid a lot. So it's less about just making sure we get it right, more about positioning ourselves to make sure that we get paid when we are right. Don't stop at handicapping, right? It's easy just to handicap the card and think, okay, I can wing a ticket, put it together here, 5 minutes to post. Do spend time on betting strategy, thinking through how you're going to express your handicapping in your ticket. So make sure that you give yourself time to get that figured out. And I might even say spend more time on betting strategy, thinking about that aspect of it than the handicapping opinion, because you can study long and study wrong on the handicapping side. But if you're savvy with how you're entering the market, you can be a winning player.
Trust your opinion.
Yes. Yeah, and I think, following up from what Kevin said there, I think you could be a good handicapper, but a poor ticket constructor and lose, and vice versa. So, yeah, very important to spend time on both. As we wrap things up, any closing thoughts from anyone? Did we not get to something that anyone else wanted to just hammer home?
I'll just say there's no place for fear. You can't be afraid to lose. If you go into it, my father always had the approach, scared money never wins. If you go into a sequence from a standpoint of fear, you're worried about this horse beating you, you're worried about that horse beating you, you're worried about, if I press my money forward, then, I'm going to lose. That's not going to work. If you go to a craps table, when it gets hot, it doesn't get hot because people hit the pass line and then take the money back off. It's because they press and press and press and press. It's the same thing in horse racing. If you trust your opinions and you reinvest and reinvest and reinvest and avoid the temptation and avoid fear, that's where you're going to make a big score. And it took me a long time to get there, and it's a hard thing to do. But breaking fear and putting these tickets together kind of opens things up for you and takes you on a little bit of a different ride through navigating your way through some of these sequences.
Strategy. I'll mention strategy. Have a strategy. Have a budget. Have a strategy. And it's a good starting point.
Well, that's got me fired up. DZ, like a coach in a locker room, I'm going to be logging onto my TwinSpires account, my Brisnet account right now, and seeing what pick fours, fives, and sixes are available across the country. I want to thank James Scully, Darin Zoccali, and Kevin Kilroy for the team. For their time. I want to thank you for watching. Hopefully what we've covered will help you land that big score the next time you're playing a multi-race wager, and we'll see you next time here at TwinSpires. Good luck.